everyone, and welcome back to True Crime Buzz. I am your host, Amber, and as y'all may or may not know, Vanessa is still out of commission for the rest of the year. I know, sad, but she will be back next year. So in the meantime, filling in for her again is Miss Brittany.
Hi.
All right, Brittany, what are we drinking today?
I'm drinking Diet Coke.
Y'all need to start placing bets every time we record. Like, is Brittany going to be drinking Diet Coke? Because that's all she drinks.
It is. That's my water.
I can't say much. I drink a lot of soda and sweet tea and obviously wine, so.
Well, that's why I drink Diet Coke, because I had the bet. Sweet tea was my drink. It was my drink. And when that got taken from me, I switched to Diet Coke.
Can you drink unsweet tea?
Ew.
I know, it's disgusting. It tastes like dirty water.
I can physically drink it, but who would want to? Sorry, to our northern listeners, but.
Correct.
Ugh, no.
Yeah. Well, shocker, you're drinking Diet Coke and I'm drinking red wine, Rex Goliath to be specific.
I was about to ask if it was Rex Goliath. I just knew.
And I don't know if you can see my shirt. I know the podcast people can't, but I am repping the Rex Goliath rooster shirt.
Oh, I love it. Yes.
And I love it so much. And disclaimer, I may or may not have pre-gamed because this has been the most stressful week of my whole year, I think. Between the election madness that's going on and some family stuff going on that shall not be named.
And Corona.
And Rona. This is all that I have left of the whole bottle of wine that I just opened. So
I don't blame you. It's okay.
But hey, that'll make for a better episode, right?
That's right. True Crime Buzz is a judgment-free zone.
We're heavy on the buzz on this episode, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So, Brittany, lay it on me. Who are we talking about today?
Today I am covering the man who is known as Bob the Baker or the Butcher Baker. He terrorized Anchorage, Alaska in the 1970s. This baker was more concerned with preying on and torturing sex workers and teens than he was his baked goods. So grab a drink, or finish yours in your case, and buckle up for the depraved story of Alaska's most notorious serial killer and resident creep, Robert Hansen.
Hell yes, I am here for this.
Yes, this is one that I've really wanted to cover for a while.
My rooster is excited too.
He looks excited. Okay, so Robert Christian Hansen was born on February 15th, 1939 in Easterville, Iowa. His father was a Danish immigrant and a baker. And in his younger years, Robert was very thin. He was afflicted with a stutter and suffered from horrible acne that left him permanently scarred. He was shunned by the pretty girls at school and teased for his scars and stature. This made him hate those girls, and he would fantasize about exacting cruel revenge on them.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah, he didn't take rejection well at all. Which, I mean, no one does, but...
But don't go killing people.
Yeah, over it. Come on now. Robert's father was very controlling and strict, and they did not have a great relationship. Robert found hunting and archery a place to escape the bullies and school and his home life. And he did hunting and archery often. In 1957, Robert enlisted in the Army Reserve. He only served 1 year before he was discharged. Then he briefly worked as an assistant to the drill instructor for the Police Academy of Pocahontas, Iowa. While working there, he began dating a younger woman and then married her in the summer of 1960. On December 7th, 1960, Robert was arrested, I just can't get over this, for burning down a Pocahontas County Board of Education school bus garage.
Why? Like, why?
Of all the things, the school bus garage. Clearly, he had still been holding on to his anger over his treatment in high school. He was convicted and sentenced to 3 years, but only served 20 months in Anamosa State Penitentiary. And let me just be very upfront. Every time he's charged with anything, he never serves his full sentence. It's gross.
Because he has such good behavior, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sure, we'll go with that.
Sure.
While incarcerated, he was diagnosed with manic depression, which nowadays psychologists say that he would have been more likely diagnosed as bipolar, but that wasn't really a thing.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say that because of the whole manic depression.
But that's what it's listed as, with periodical schizophrenic episodes.
Oh.
He had some real mental health issues. The psychiatrist said that his volatile emotions, fixations with others, and childlike hysteria left Robert with an infantile personality. Like, what a compliment. Thanks, man.
Like, what if that was like his yearbook? What do you call those things?
Most likely to succeed.
Yes. Most infantile personality. Thank you so much.
Also, while he was incarcerated, his first wife filed for divorce, and I think we can all agree that that was an extremely smart move on her part.
Mm-hmm. Dodge that bullet, sister.
Yes, she did. And let me tell you, in my research, I cannot find her name anywhere, which I don't blame her. I would never let anyone know that I had been married to Robert Hansen. So
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't tell anybody my name, where I'd lived. Like, I would forget that part of my life altogether.
Yeah, she's probably trying to. So after a little bit of researching, I figured she just wanted it that way and left it. Once he was released, he was put on parole. He completed that, but then went on to be jailed several times for petty theft.
Wait, have I asked you this before? Have you ever stolen anything?
Not even a pack of gum. You know, people are like, oh, I stole a pack of gum as a kid. Not me. Never.
I've already discussed the things that I've stolen in previous episodes, and there's only a couple things, and they're not like, it's not like I went to a store and grabbed something and walked out. It was like random things that I feel like don't count as stealing, but they totally do.
I have no judgment on people that have stolen, I mean, except for this guy. But I'm too chicken shit to do it. Like, I can't.
I normally am. I was definitely drinking in one of them. And then the other one, Kendra and I just got really ballsy one night. And we were like, you know what? We want road signs that start with our first name. And so Kendra's not a very popular name. We couldn't find one for her. But of course, there was an Amber Lane or an Amber Road that we found.
This must have been during the time that I had transferred high schools, because otherwise I would have been with you and been like, no, guys, let's not do that.
I think I was 19, 18.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I was very young and stupid. And I still have it. It's in my closet.
You should hang that up.
It just sits there.
Otherwise, what did you steal it for?
I know, right? Just to say I did it.
So in 1963, Robert married Darla Henrichsen, and they went on to have 2 children. In 1967, Robert decided to start fresh in the great final frontier and moved, he and his family, to Anchorage, Alaska, and opened a bakery there. And Anchorage is a very special place to me. I moved there when I was 21, and that's where Matt and I got married. It's also the place where my mother-in-law was born and raised, and where Matt's grandpa still lives today.
And where I am so jealous that you got to live and I didn't get to visit at all. I was so jealous when you went to live there.
Well, his grandpa still lives there, so let's go.
I'm down. I'll pack my bags tomorrow.
Okay, I'm down too. You probably don't want to go now, though. Wait till summer.
I just want to see the northern lights, like, so bad.
Well, you do have to go when it's cold for that, so.
Okay.
But Matt's grandpa's last name is also Hansen. Although it's a different spelling, it's, the same last name. Imagine the looks that he must have gotten with the last name Hansen.
I know. So creepy.
Oh, it is. I should have called and asked him, like, hey, but getting back to old Bobby the Baker, Robert. I just like Bobby the Baker better.
I know. Every time you say that, I think of Bob the Builder. So I'm like, Bob the Baker. Can he kill it?
Yes, he can.
That's awful.
It is. Yeah, it's awful, but true. He was well liked by his Anchorage neighbors and set several hunting records and had lots of large game, rams, moose on his walls to show off his hunting skills. However, Robert and Darla's relationship wasn't great. Darla had her master's in education and taught children with learning disabilities, but she also completely supported herself and the kids, paying all the bills, while Robert used the money he made from his bakery on his quote-unquote own needs.
Wow.
Yeah.
God bless that independent woman. Destiny's Child wrote all the songs about her.
They sure did.
Gen Z is not going to know who Destiny's Child is, but...
It was the group Beyonce was in. They know who Beyonce
Before
is.
Beyonce was popular, yeah.
Yeah. In December 1971, Hansen was arrested twice. Once for abducting and attempting to rape a local housewife, and also for raping a sex worker. In the case for the housewife, he pled no contest to assault with a deadly weapon, and in return, the rape charges on the sex worker were dropped as part of a plea bargain, which is incredibly awful and unfair, but very telling of how sex workers were treated back then.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Like, both of these people were just women that neither one deserved that. It makes me so mad. And of course, to make us even more mad, he was sentenced to 5 years, but only served 6 months. Imagine that.
5 years and only 6 months?
Mm-hmm.
The judicial system, I just don't understand sometimes.
I don't either. It doesn't make sense. Then he was placed on a work release program and sent to a halfway house.
And he's still married, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, he's still married.
Poor Darla.
Maybe she was just so busy running a household and raising kids that she just didn't even have the time. You know what I mean?
I mean, she's already independent, like paying all the bills and taking care of the kids. She
Yeah.
probably is like, okay, cool, do your thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she just couldn't be bothered. I don't know. Then in 1976, Robert was charged with larceny. I died when I read this. After stealing a chainsaw from Fred Meyer, which is an Anchorage department store, like a Belk or J.C. Penney.
How do you steal a chainsaw? Because that's not discreet. Like, do you just grab it and
No.
just walk out with it like you own the place?
I guess, which is why he got caught.
Obviously.
Like, you're not even having to pay bills. You could use your money and go buy the chainsaw. Crazy. He was crazy. And again, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison and ordered to receive psychiatric care. However, once again, this jerk got lucky, and the Alaska Supreme Court reduced his sentence and released him with time served.
You are joking.
Which, I mean, it is a chainsaw, you know.
Do you think it's because Alaska is so close to Canada that they're just like the same kind of people, that they're just so nice? They're like, you know what? It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, because Alaskans are super nice, but they're like super tough people. You have to be tough to live in Alaska.
I would think so.
You know, this is like 60s and 70s. He's a white dude.
Well, you said he was well liked, so maybe
Yeah.
the personality and his charm.
Yeah, 100% that is definitely the case here. And you will find that out later because it's a recurring theme. And through all that, Darla stayed with him and continued to financially uphold the family.
God bless you, Darla.
I'm telling you. Robert got a flying license and bought a Piper Cub plane, which is like a bush plane. And he was known for hunting adventures. He was also known at the local strip clubs and on 4th Avenue as a regular.
He loved the ladies, huh?
He loved to hate the ladies. I think he wanted to be loved by the ladies, but
the ladies didn't love him, and that's the issue here, in his mind.
in his mind, yeah. Strippers and sex workers alike learned that they had to make the first move. This was part of his fantasy to demean women. He was quoted as saying, "She had to come out and say we could do it, but it's going to cost you some money. Then she was no longer, I guess, what you call a decent girl."
I don't even have the words for that. I'm looking for them and they're just not coming to my head, but I know how I feel inside, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, no, it's gross.
I hate this man. That's it.
Now, backing it up in time a little bit, it's thought that Robert Hansen began killing around 1972. His MO was to pick up a sex worker in his car and then force her at gunpoint to his cabin and rape her, and then fly her out to the woods where he would hunt the women as if they were game. He would shoot or stab the sex worker or lady to death.
The most dangerous game.
Yes, that's what I thought of. I'm
Yeah.
like, did they write that about him? But I think that was
Ooh,
written
I
first.
wonder. When was that written?
I don't know.
Because I had to read that in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, damn. The most dangerous game was written in 1924.
Yep, so maybe
Holy
that's where he
cow.
got the idea.
Maybe. Or just from whatever part of his brain that didn't function like a normal person's was like telling him like, hey, this is a fun idea.
Let's go hunt humans.
Yeah, why not?
In the mid-70s, at least 2 sex workers told cops that Robert Hansen was a nut job with rape fantasies.
Clearly.
Obviously. But police didn't really listen to either complaint and instead chose to judge the women instead.
Of course, because it's the 70s and they're only sex workers. What do they know? They're not real people.
Yeah, no, like they would never encounter a creep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, dude, creep is my number one customer.
Always. However, on June 13th, 1983, Robert offered 17-year-old Cindy Paulson $200 to perform oral sex on him. And let me just say, she's constantly referred to in all of my research as a prostitute or a sex worker, but she was 17. So I will not be referring to her as such because
She was a baby.
child. She was a child and a victim, and I refuse to even use that word for a 17-year-old kid.
I didn't realize she was so young.
She was. Anyways, when poor Cindy got into Robert's car, he held her at gunpoint and drove her to his home in Muldoon. There he held her captive, tortured her, and raped her. He then chained her by the neck to a post in the basement and took a nap.
He took a nap
He took a nap.
because he was just so exhausted.
From all his criminal, torturous, horrible, horrific ways,
Oh my God.
When he woke up, he put her back in his car and took her up to the Merrill Field Airport, which I have been to. He informed Cindy he was taking her to his cabin off the Knik River. It was only accessible by boat or bush plane, like much of Alaska is. He left Cindy handcuffed in the back seat, and while Robert was loading the plane and had his back turned, Cindy decided this was her chance to escape. She crawled up front to the driver's seat and opened the door and ran as fast as she could.
Go, girl.
Barefoot, okay, to nearby 6th Avenue. Robert tried to catch her, chasing her the whole way, but she made it to 6th Avenue and flagged down a passing truck. Robert Yount was the driver and said he was alarmed at how disheveled the young girl looked. So he stopped and let her in his truck and drove her to the Mush Inn, which I love. I love the name of that. The
Mush Inn?
Yes! I
Like
love
liver
it.
mush?
Well, but no, because the Iditarod.
Oh, the Iditarod.
Yeah, so you just mush
My
it.
southern ass was thinking about liver mush. No. Yes, the Iditarod. I love the Iditarod.
Oh, my gracious.
Mush. Okay.
Yeah, the Mush Inn. So once she got to the Mush Inn, she jumped out and ran inside and begged the front desk person to call her boyfriend, who was staying at the Big Timber Motel. Robert Yount, which was the truck driver, headed straight to work, where he immediately called the police to report his encounter with a handcuffed, barefoot, scared young girl. So, yes, Robert Yount. You're the only good Robert
Hero
in
of
this
the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
When police arrived to the inn where Mr. Yount had dropped Cindy off, the clerk told them she had caught a cab to Big Timber Motel, so they went there and found poor Cindy in room 110 all alone and still handcuffed. They took Cindy to the Anchorage police headquarters, where she described her abuser and also told them she left her blue sneakers on the passenger side floorboard as evidence that she had indeed been in the car, which is honestly
Yes, girl.
so freaking smart.
I love this girl.
I do too. Hero. She also told the police her assailant was Bob Hansen by name.
Oh, she named him. She said,
She named
not
him.
only can I describe him, I know who the fuck he is.
Yeah.
I love this.
She was awesome. But, of course, when APD questioned Robert Hansen, he denied the accusations because, of course, he did.
Because of course he did.
Instead, he told the cops that the young woman was just trying to get him in trouble because he wouldn't, quote-unquote, pay her extortion demands. And even though Robert had been in trouble with the law several times prior, the police looked at Robert as a meek, small-framed, humble baker and decided that he wasn't capable of such a crime, which is insane. Like, hello, it's not a judgment call. It is an evidence call, and a victim's statement is evidence.
Why would you make this shit up either way? Like, I guess because she's a sex worker, they just
Yeah, but
think
again,
she's...
17. I don't know how as a grown adult you could look at a 17-year-old kid and be like, yep, they're making that up. Or, yep, they're a sex worker. They're 17. They don't know what they're doing with their lives. They're underage for consent. So either way, no matter what, that's rape and like solicitation of prostitution.
The whole situation's illegal.
Illegal either way. And then, on top of that, his friend John Henning provided an alibi for Robert. So the police quit considering him a suspect. Which, what a great guy John Henning is, right? Like, even if he didn't know all the detail, he's just like, oh, that Robert, back at it again with the sex workers. What the hell?
Wow.
Like, why would you do that?
If only Belle Gunnis was around in the 70s.
I'm telling you, she could have taken care of this problem.
Yeah, for real.
And the story of Robert Hansen could have ended right there. He could have never been caught. But bodies had been popping up in Anchorage, Seward, and the Matanuska-Sustina Valley area over the years prior to this. So the first body was found by construction workers. She was called Eklutna Annie by police, and she's never been identified, which is so sad.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is. Then another female body was discovered in Seward. She was identified as Joanna Messina. She had been found in a gravel pit. And then in 1982, a year before the incident with Cindy Paulson, the remains of Sherry Morrow, who was 23, were found in a shallow grave near the Knik River. You know, a river that Robert Hansen had a cabin on.
If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's fucking Robert Hansen. Like, hello.
Bingo. So, Detective Glenn Floth, an Alaskan state trooper who had been investigating these cases, realized that he had 3 bodies and 3 cases that were super similar, and he concluded these women were probably killed by the same person. So, he decided to reach out to Special Agent John Douglas of the FBI and asked him to help put together a profile on this murderer, which honestly, I just absolutely enjoy the heck out of criminal profiling. It's so fascinating to me.
I know, right? Isn't it amazing? That's why I
It is.
love Mindhunter, because it's all about the story of how they started profiling quote unquote serial killers.
I've never watched it, but I love Criminal Minds, and obviously that's what they do, so I could get down with that.
You need to watch every season. It's so good. It's all about how they develop the term serial killer and like how they profile how they're going to act.
Okay, yeah, now I'm going to watch that now because I love profiling.
You'll love that show then, because that's all it's about. There's not a lot of blood and guts, which is usually what I like, unfortunately. So there was a few episodes where I was like, come on, get on with it. But if you're into profiling, that is your show.
Yes, going to watch that. Douglas's profile said that the killer would have low self-esteem, have a history of rejection from females, would be an experienced hunter, perhaps have a stutter, and would have kept jewelry or other trophies of his murders. I mean, come on.
See, that's the part of profiling that like blows my mind. I get certain aspects about whether they're organized or unorganized or how their family history was and stuff like that. You can kind of pick up on that. But things like he had a stutter or he was a hunter, like how do you know that?
I don't know. It's bizarre.
How do they know that? And they're always right. They're never wrong.
Yeah, no, they're not. It's awesome. So Detective Floth started looking into suspects until he ran across Robert Hansen, who fit the description perfectly and owned a plane, which is something that would have been required to get to some of the places that these ladies were found. So, between Cindy's testimony and the profile match, APD were able to secure a warrant to search Robert's homes, plane, and vehicle. Finally, on October 27th, 1983, they discovered jewelry that had belonged to the missing women and a crap ton of firearms in his attic and an aviation chart on the back of his bed on the headboard. The chart had X's on it that matched the places where bodies had already been found, plus lots of other places.
Because he can't help himself. Almost like a little shrine to himself. Like, look what I did. Here's a little X. Here's another little X. Like, good for me.
And like, what a sick fuck though. Like, in the bed he shares with his wife. Poor Darla was sleeping with this map behind her bed.
I know.
What a creep. When police presented Robert with the evidence discovered, Robert decided to deny. Of course.
Of course.
Eventually, though, he started justifying what he had done by blaming the women. He ended up confessing to the crimes with each piece of jewelry they showed him. When asked what would make him kill, he answered, and this is a direct quote, "Going back in my life, I was, I guess, just what you would call frustrated. I would see my friends and so forth going out on dates and so forth, and I had a tremendous desire to do the same thing. From the scars and so forth," evidently that's his favorite word,
That's his favorite word.
"on my face, you can probably see, I could see why girls wouldn't get close to me. During my junior high or high school days, I couldn't control my speech at all. I was always so embarrassed and upset with it from people making fun of me that I hated the word school." Which, I mean, that's sad.
It is a little
It's
sad.
very sad, you know, obviously that people bullied him and, you know, he had this horrible home life and stuff, but that does not excuse what you did, bud.
But also to any and all men who are listening, if you do have a stutter, it's not the end of the world because
No.
Brittany and I both know we went to school with someone who stuttered all the time and he was adorable and we would have went on a date with him.
Seriously, he was so stinking cute.
He was so cute. The stutter didn't bother anybody.
And he was so sweet.
Exactly. So don't go murdering people just because
No.
you have a stutter. Just saying.
You'll find your place in this world.
Yes, you'll find someone who loves you for who you are and the stutter doesn't matter. PSA.
So, Robert Hansen admitted to raping and torturing and assaulting and attacking Alaskan women starting in 1971. Most of his earliest victims were between 16 and 19 and not sex workers, just regular old teenagers.
This guy.
I'm telling you. In total, Robert is known to have raped and assaulted over 30 women and to have murdered at minimum 17 Alaskan women between the ages of 16 and 41.
Oh my God.
He led police to 17 grave sites in and around south central Alaska, 12 which were unknown to police. But he refused to give up all the X's on his map, including 3 in Resurrection Bay near Seward. Police suspect 2 of these were Mary Till and Megan Emmerich, where they were buried, but Robert denied killing them. He was arrested and charged with assault, kidnapping, multiple weapon offenses, and insurance fraud.
Okay.
Right? I was like, what? It was relating to a claim he had filed with insurance over some missing trophies that he hadn't really lost. And he was like, oh, I forgot to call the insurance company and let them know I found them.
Well, and also, like, why give up the location of places that police had no idea, but not all of them?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, you know, a lot of times the first people that serial killers kill are like their most precious. And
Okay.
I don't know, but I think maybe that's in some way
like
something
they're
about
special
that
to
was
them.
special. To
Yeah.
him.
Good point.
However, he didn't even enter a plea on murder charges until ballistics matched bullets found at the crime scenes to his rifle. Then he entered a plea bargain. He pled guilty to the 4 murders that the police had most evidence of, which were Eklutna Annie, Joanna Messina, Paula Golding, and Sherry Morrow. And he promised to provide details about the other victims, including deciphering the X's on the aviation chart, in exchange for no publicity about his case, and that he would get to serve his sentence in a federal prison. He did give police info on how the women were abducted and said that he would sometimes let women go if they were able to convince him that they wouldn't call the cops, which is so shady because there's probably way more people that he
that's
raped,
so messed
and
up.
they just didn't come forward.
Ugh.
But good for them. I mean, I don't blame them. You know?
I mean, good for them. You got to do what you got to do to survive, but still,
Yes.
like, just what a asshole.
He also admitted that he had started killing in the early 70s. Out of a probable 21 people killed and 17 sites, Robert led the authorities to 12 bodies. And those 12 bodies were found and returned to their loved ones, which makes me happy. But obviously, that's not all the X's. So I don't think he kept his end of the deal.
Do you know if they went to those X's to find the bodies and then, like, how does that work?
So I guess, I mean, and 2 serial killers have been known to move bodies. So where he originally buried them, maybe not.
That's true.
But I mean, they went to 17 sites. So obviously just a few were, you know, they didn't go to. But there was no bodies.
Okay.
You know,
Or he moved
winters,
them, or-
animals carrying stuff off because Alaska is a wild place. So, but 12 bodies were found and taken back to their loved ones, which makes me happy for those 12 families. I should also mention that the kidnapping and assault charges were for the case of Cindy Paulson, the victim who escaped. So, hallelujah for that, because that girl deserves some justice. Robert Hansen was found guilty by a jury and sentenced to 461 years plus life in prison without the possibility of parole for the heinous murders that he committed.
Hallelujah.
He was sent to the U.S. Penitentiary Lewisburg in Pennsylvania until 1988 when he was returned to Alaska. First in Juneau, and then finally at Spring Creek Correctional Center in Seward until May 2014 when he fell ill and was transported to the Anchorage Correctional Center. He died 3 months later on August 21st, 2014 at 75 at Alaska Regional Hospital from natural causes from the previous health issues. Which is so crazy to me to realize I was in Alaska during this man's lifetime and actually visited Seward during the time he was incarcerated there. Seward is one of my favorite places on earth. The mountains run into the ocean there.
That sounds magical.
It is, and it's foggy, it's beautiful. There's a coffee shop there that used to be a church, and it has like the stained glass windows and the vaulted ceilings and everything. So it's a little coffee shop. And some of the nicest people that you will ever meet. And this creep did not deserve to get to spend his final years in such an awesome place. And also, it totally creeps me out that that's the closest prison to the 3 sites that he would not name. I felt like that creep was sitting in prison like, over there's where they're at. You'll never know.
Yeah, I don't like that.
No, I don't like it at all. It makes me very mad. And I'm here to tell you, I couldn't even tell you where the prison is in Seward. I mean, obviously, I could look it up on a map, but I never even noticed it while I was there. It's a very small town. I'm actually surprised that there is a prison there, but... If you, like me, wonder about Robert's wife, Darla, and their 2 kids,
I do.
Darla has said that she suspected her husband might still have been frequenting sex workers, but never imagined he was a serial killer who enjoyed preying on and hunting women. Which, it doesn't really sound like they had that great of a relationship, so I tend to believe that. Like, doesn't sound like he was home very much.
I know, but that's so crazy to me to think about being married to somebody and you think you know them because you live with them and you're married to them, and then they have this whole extra life that you don't even know about.
Right, and a map of people he has killed on the back of their headboard. But, I'm going to take her for her word. There's no indication of anything that she knew, so I believe her.
Oh, no, I believe her 100%. It's just crazy to think about, like,
it's mind-blowing.
What if my husband was a serial killer and I just didn't know?
Yeah, that would be...
Like, when I watched Dexter, and I was like, how do you not know that your husband is a serial killer?
Yeah, how do you not know that? I don't know. When Robert was sentenced in 1984, she divorced Robert. Finally! When he was sentenced, she divorced him.
Better late than never.
Yes, and she decided to sell their home and the bakery, which good for her. Take that money, make his pockets hurt.
Yeah.
And relocate herself and the kids to Arkansas after the kids were bullied horribly at school for their father's crimes.
Oh.
Why? They were kids. They didn't do anything.
They didn't.
But nowadays, Darla is a teacher in Russia, and the 2 kids live somewhere in the Midwest. They refuse to do interviews about their father and prefer to remain anonymous, understandably.
Totally understandable.
If my dad were a serial killer and I didn't want people to talk to me about it, like, that needs to be respected. So,
but for real though, if your dad was God, Neil would never be a serial killer because he's the nicest person on the earth. But if he was, would you interview with places about him, or would you go into hiding?
I'll go into hiding.
I understand going into hiding, but I think I would get interviewed. I think I would want to tell my side of growing up with someone like that.
I might do like 1 or 2 interviews and then change my name. And because, I mean, it could be the rest of your life. People don't lose interest in cases. Obviously, we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
The only thing my dad could kill people with is corny jokes, though. So.
And the same as my dad.
Yeah.
We have the 2 most purest dads in the world, and it would never happen.
No, not going to happen. So, that's where we end this bizarre story of a bullied kid who grew up unable to let go of women saying no and then decided to hunt and kill girls and women for sport. May he suffer immensely in hell, and may his family and his victims' families find some peace.
Absolutely.
Make sure to subscribe to our podcast, now available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. We have new episodes every Tuesday. Leave us a review on Apple Podcast, and once we get 100 reviews, we're going to do a giveaway, and you don't want to miss it.
Also, be sure to follow us on social media. Go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TCBudPodcast. And also be sure to check out our website at www.truecrimebuzz.com. Until next time, cheers!